Good morning, entrepreneurs. We are back. We are live, and you are tuned into the Non-Corporate Network, the worldwide leader in entrepreneurship. Dustin, what show are they watching?
Entreprenews.
Welcome. Again, my name is Chaz Vandemotter, and that's Dustin Trout. And this has already been extremely awkward. We're just going to continue on. Thank you guys for watching, whether you're tuned in on Facebook, YouTube, or you're checking out the podcast. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Entreprenews is a show where we debate the top 6 trending small business stories for 3 minutes each. We each give our takes. I get crowned with a large medal, and we pop champagne, and then we get back to work. And then I come back, and we do it all over again in a few days. So, Dustin, you didn't even have to tell me. I know I just nailed that, right?
Nope. And a few words. You talk a lot pre-battle, and I bring the fire during the battle, and yeah, you're just all bark, no bite.
I guess we'll see about that. Getting into our first story, the pandemic of work from home injuries. Chiropractors reporting a surge in problems as millions of workers have spent months on their sofas and non-ergonomic setups. And 92% of chiropractors are saying their patients report more neck pain, back pain, and other musculoskeletal issues since the stay-at-home order began. Dustin, do businesses have an obligation to provide any kind of help to employees that are suffering from work from home related injuries? Do you take this seriously? What are your thoughts?
I mean, it's just the headline. It's tough not to laugh. I mean, it's injuries surge, work from home injury. I mean, in all reality, it's true. It's your body's not used to typing on a couch or sitting in a chair, whatever it may be. But I mean, I don't think the business has an obligation, but I do think that this is really going to show who really cares about their employees and who doesn't. Those who don't are just going to say, sorry, go invest in your own stuff. But the ones who really care about the employees, which also they care about the productivity and all that, they'll either provide, something, either tips or those that go above and beyond will supply chairs and different desks and maybe standing desks. But I mean, work from home seems to continue to grow and companies wanting to do it more. So this is going to be a major problem. And that's where, everything always kind of comes to light is when there's a problem, who's going to help solve it? And those that are the better companies will help solve that problem. But I mean, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think there is some kind of obligation here. I mean, I've seen firsthand some of the people that are affected by this. There's nothing worse than like chronic neck pain, chronic back pain, especially when you're trying to get some work done and that's all you can think about. It is going to kill your productivity. It is going to force you to have to stop or lay down or not work as hard because you have to. I mean, it puts you in a lot of pain. And so, that's obviously going to hinder the productivity. So I think there is some kind of obligation here to at least understand kind of what is that ergonomic setup in my employees' households, and is there anything that I can do to, help make that a better situation for them, even if it's just training people on how they should be properly sitting. I mean, I was talking to a buddy of mine who's a PT, and he was just kind of schooling me on this is the position you need to be sitting in. So make sure your setup allows you to sit in this position or stand in this position. And even those things at 25 years old, I still haven't heard of that stuff, So I think that, especially for the new people coming into the workforce, as well as the people that can really suffer from these injuries that are older, I think we got to be mindful of it.
What do you think this does for the massage therapist and the chiropractor industry in terms of being a career?
It's become more standard for sure.
Yeah, it's going to explode. So, I mean, if you're in the process of trying to figure out how to pivot or think of a new career path, I mean, maybe looking into this because, I mean, it's only going to grow, especially as more companies, allow the work
That's
from
a great niche. Yeah, the work from home specialist or the work from home whisperer, I think we need it, and this is only going to be a growing trend, and, definitely go to the chiropractor if you got some neck pain. It's not worth not doing anything. Getting into our next story. Samsung reportedly cutting off chip sales to Hawaii. The Chinese tech company gargantuan They own many things such as WeChat in China, as well as TikTok. Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about this on this show, the incoming September 15th deadline that Trump has kind of put a line in the sand on. So Dustin, what do you think this is going to do when we hit September 15th? Obviously Samsung pulling out of their deals. The Huawei phones are also used by companies like Motorola, Metro PCS. There's probably 5 to 7 different companies based in the U.S. that use this type of hardware on many of their devices. So, what's going to happen to phone manufacturing, and what is this September 15th deadline going to do?
I mean, I think it's going to put, some of those phone makers that you mentioned in a position that they're not used to. I mean, they're going to have to try and figure out how to get their chips made from a different company, which China's usually the cheaper route. And so, I mean, I think it's going to have an impact on phone prices. I think it's going to have an impact on who are the major players in the U.S. arena.
Yeah.
But, I mean, this is a growing trend. You've seen, the government getting involved and really pushing out TikTok. You got this happening now. I know that they've been, I think, pushed out of the EU and a couple other countries, but I think there's a growing alliance of trying to push these Chinese companies out. I mean,
right.
Talk a lot about what their ulterior motives are and stuff like that, but I think a bigger question is, I wonder how this is going to impact just global commerce. I mean, how, globally we've all been working together really well, right, but now you're starting to see kinks in different countries not wanting to work together. So, I mean, supply chains, that's going to have an impact there. I mean, it'll be. It's
almost like we're taking a step back in innovation. I mean, if you think about China, has long been like this outstanding joke of like, oh, it's probably made in China. Like now we're going to have to shift our manufacturing efforts to globalize like other opportunity zones, and maybe places like Africa can capitalize on these type of trends. But at the end of the day, in my eyes, it's like this is going to be a more expensive way to be less innovative, just because we have a bad relationship with a country and we can't trust them. And so I think it's a shame when you think about it in that light, where we know we're going to have to dump a lot more money into building more plants, training more people, finding more competencies, figuring out the importing and exporting and where we can manufacture these things. I mean, these are millions and millions of phones. And so, yeah, we may be a little bit safer from a data perspective. It's going to be a lot more expensive, and the last thing we need is more expenses right now.
Yeah, I mean, and who knows? You take that step back to take 5 steps forward. I mean, right now you have China that's manufacturing for the entire world. Yep. Maybe that diversifies a little bit. Now you have, a couple impoverished countries that now have a little bit of influx of cash because they're producing stuff. So, I mean, it could create some innovation, but right. I mean, I think to your point, it's going to stifle it for a bit. But, who knows?
Yeah, it's hard to it's sad to see the wall or the barriers to entry rising in some of these things during this time when you want to be trying to get people opening businesses. But I digress. Getting into our next story, Higley Unified and other districts have come together to stream high school sports online. This is interesting. As more schools begin in-person learning in the Valley, we're hearing more about high school sports will look like in the fall. The National Federation of High Schools, Dustin, has launched a monthly subscription for $10.99 where you'll be able to watch all of the high school football games. We're going to equip the actual schools with equipment to allow for them to be able to stream these events. While there aren't going to be any tailgaters on the sidelines, you can watch this on any of your devices at your house. What do you think about streaming high school sports? And, how far will this unbundling of cable TV go over the next 10 years?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't found myself tailgating at a high school football game. Might be kind of weird if I'm there and don't have a kid playing. But, I mean, I love the idea. I think, it's they're taking a step in the right direction on the future of how people are going to consume content.
Right.
I mean, it's you've had the major cable companies where you don't even watch 80% of the TV shows or channels that you have access to. Right. But you're creating more niche channels. I mean, it's essentially what we're trying to do with NCN here. Create more personalized or customized content for entrepreneurs or for fans of high school sports, whatever that may be.
Yeah.
But I think you're going to diversify a lot of the content that's out there, which is always a good thing. But I think there's going to be a huge explosion of opportunity from content creators to advertising opportunities to,
Right.
I mean, I love the way it's going. I mean, it's no one ever jumps for joy when they talk about their cable bill or how annoying it is to be locked in for 2 years at that. I mean, it's the way of the future, and it's cool to see it. High school sports leading the way.
Yeah, no, I mean, I love seeing the innovation there. I guess my thing is that you think about this and there's like a sliding scale of how much money you're willing to pay for from an entertainment perspective. And while, cable is somewhere between, I'd say, $150 and $300 a month. If that's what you're willing to pay for, those 800 channels, Dustin, then, I think that you can rack up plenty of subscriptions to reach that threshold of like what you're willing to pay. My worry is just that some people look at it from a value standpoint and go, hey, I'm getting 800 channels. This is why it's worth it. Where maybe if I pay for this, I'm only getting one channel. So I think from a value perspective, it's going to be interesting to see how consumers react. It's taken a long time to get 80% of adoption on anything. And so there's still a lot of people that are going to stay around on cable for a while. But we're making it a lot more accessible. And like you said, there's a lot more niche specific content that's coming out that has a cult following. And those people are the ones that have the most elasticity on how much they're willing to pay for some kind of subscription.
Yep. And I think that the people that are smart are not going to charge a subscription. It's all going to be advertising based. I mean, look at Peacock and what they're doing. I mean, it's now you don't have to worry about, it's an extra $10 here, an extra $10 there. You make all your revenue on the back of advertising.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, it'll be interesting to see. I think this is definitely going to be an industry where the giants topple, and we have a lot more kind of competition in this space. We're already seeing it with a lot of people like this story, for instance. Before we get into our next story, I want to mention that we are powered by State 48. They hook you up with the drip. They've got a lot of amazing designs, especially the Arizona State one. Not so much the U of A design that they've got going on right now, but Arizona State, one of the best designs I've ever seen. Dustin, do you have anything you want to mention about State 48?
No, I mean, I never thought a shirt would be so polarizing. The comments are awesome, I mean, between ASU and U of A. But, I mean, at their core, they're doing something really awesome. I mean, awesome, comfortable apparel. But they're also doing a lot on the nonprofit side and creating a lot of collaborations there, right, where proceeds go back to that donation, essentially. And so just an overall great company. Make sure to check them out, state48.com.
Yep, we're proud to have a company like that in our backyard.
Absolutely. So heading into our next story. So 1 in 3 employees believe that their company's cybersecurity is a moderate to major problem. What's even more eye-opening is 76% of employees say that there is some degree of a problem when it comes to security. So the 1 in 3 or 33%, that's moderate to major. And so, but 75% of people think that there is some sort of security problem when it comes to their company. Small business is the favorite target when it comes to cyber crimes. And employees are starting to worry that their personal information is at risk if the company were to get hacked. One thing that really stuck out, companies that have less than 50 employees, when this gets brought to their attention, 44% of management is unresponsive, as in they just, go on to a deaf ear with it. And so, but the bigger businesses, those that are between 51 and 100 employees, 33% is unresponsive. And then the larger 500 plus employees, only 25% of management is unresponsive. So, I mean, you still have a good chunk of people that are unresponsive. And what's even scarier is that it typically takes 191 days to even identify, a data breach. And so it's talk a lot about it. Data is gold. I mean, it's worth more than gold. It's worth more than oil. I mean, it's huge. I mean, why are businesses caring more about this? Why does it go on deaf ears? I mean, what are your thoughts?
It's the elephant in the room, It's like we keep doing all of these amazing things with innovation and computing on one side of the spectrum, but it's like you're not building a moat around the defensibility of it. And it can be easily taken advantage of when we just keep building and never look back, never look at, what are the downfalls of these technologies? What are the breaches that can happen in these technologies? I mean, we just see one Fortune 500 company after another getting ransomware, getting data hacked. When you look at companies of this size, I'm a big advocate of small businesses don't need to carry as much personal data as maybe a larger business. And I think that that's the best way to be defensible now is, use Stripe for payment processing so you're not holding on to all the credit card numbers. Use Google sign-in for sign-in credentials so you don't have to store the passwords. Like trying to find ways that you can use more established, more defensible third parties to handle the sensitive data that you may be dealing with as an organization. But I mean, I'm hoping that a lot of these businesses interviewed in this story weren't like medical providers, insurance providers, people with social security numbers and things like that, because that's when it starts to get very dicey. There's not necessarily trusted third parties or even third parties that are applicable to hold on to this data if you need it in your own warehouse somewhere. So, I think that that's the bigger point that I'm kind of looking at. And yeah, I mean, this doesn't need to fall on deaf ears, Dustin. This is a huge point of emphasis. And, if you don't protect yourself, then you get ransomware and you pay much more in the long run.
Yeah, I think something needs to be done to create some type of threshold that companies need to fall under where they're this secure if they collect a certain type of data, whether it's credit card or whatever it may be.
It should be like some standardized score, like your credit score, but like your data defensibility score. Yeah, I like that.
Yep. Chaz, 1 point finally. All right, so going on to our next story. Investors cheer as GM and Nikola join forces to build the electric truck. So they're teaming up to take on Tesla. In this deal, GM will get 11% stake in Nikola, which equates to about $2 billion. In return, Nikola will get batteries, chassis architecture, fuel cell systems, and factories to build the Badger truck. GM will also supply fuel cell technology for Nikola's semi-truck division as well. It's expected that Nikola is going to save over $4 billion on battery and powertrain costs and another $1 billion just on engineering and validation costs alone. So, the deal is going to save them over $5 billion. That's huge. And so really, on this announcement, shares went up 48%. So they closed at $52.94 yesterday. Still well below the, I think it was a $100 IPO. I think maybe right around 80, excuse me, $80. But they're making their way back. I mean, should Elon and Tesla be worried about, this partnership, or what does this do for the auto industry?
Well, this speeds Nikola up. This gives them a shot of NOS for sure. Like, I mean, without a doubt, this is going to move them much, much quicker. Not oftentimes you see a company that's already IPO'd give up this amount of equity. So I think that tells me that there was probably a little bit of boardroom panic going on where it was like, listen, we got to figure this out. But this definitely moves them and makes them a much more legitimate player in this space, where before they were kind of like the odd stepchild, and now they're actually in the hunt. It seems like, but Tesla's got quite a bit of resources. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, they kind of hit a wave of growth to where there was not sustainable. So from a stock perspective, so maybe this is just the time that Nikola needs, where everything timing wise is coming together for them to be able to, legitimately compete in some regard, but it's still going to be a while before they make money, Dustin. It's going to be a while.
Yeah. I mean, I think just now Tesla just broke profitability. I mean, they've been losing money for how many years, but I think it's a huge competitor to Tesla. And I think overall their business model is just more sound in the long term. I mean, not only are they making money off the sell of the vehicles, but they have plans on how they're going to sell the gas as well, or the water, essentially to fuel the vehicles. So I think they're gonna come out on top in the long term. But I mean,
they're making their batteries, Dustin. They just gave up part of their company because they can't make the batteries. Tesla's making all their batteries.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one thing that GM has is they have a lot more sales under their belt than Tesla does. They know how to sell cars, and I think the Tesla stock keeps going up, but it's on the back of, this is all a great idea. This is going to change the world.
They sold a lot of cars in the old economy.
Exactly. I mean, they did, yeah, but they still know how to do it.
it'll be interesting to see. I mean, we're going to be following this one for sure. We love Nikola. Thank you guys for picking Arizona. It's
Absolutely.
It's definitely an exciting company to kind of be rooting for.
Absolutely. So going on to our final story, U.S. passenger airline traffic is rising, but still down sharply in 2019. So in July, there were 21.4 million passengers, which is up quite a bit from the 16.5 million passengers in June. But that is still down 73% year over year. Although Tesla, last Friday, TSA did screen 968,673 people, which is the highest level since March 16th as COVID was breaking out. I mean, that's great, but still down 60% year over year. So, are we anywhere near coming back when it comes to air travel? Or, I know cases are slowing down quite a bit here in Arizona, and I know a couple other states. I mean, is there going to be a huge slingshot in terms of travel and things opening up and people just wanting to get out and go travel again?
I think people are going to want to get out and go travel again, but I don't think the airline industry is ever going to recover. I mean, maybe it'll get back to 85% of what it was. Maybe. I think that companies like Frontier, companies like Spirit are really going to struggle. They don't have as much infrastructure or cash, and they also just don't have the brand recognition of being a company that is really trying to, help with the safety and care of their customer. I mean, you charge $80 for you carry a carry-on. That doesn't tell me you really care about me. I think that those companies are going to be in definitely hot water, but overall, I don't see us ever fully recovering. I think there's going to be alternate modes of transportation. I think people are going to be leaving the cities and traveling less with all of this happening. And so, I mean, it's tough to say, but I have a feeling that all these airlines are going to be contracting. They're going to be selling off assets just to be able to kind of stay above water.
See, I think it might be kind of opposite. I think those smaller companies might do well because I think really what's going to be impacted the most is business travel, where those bigger airlines, that's where they get a bulk of their revenue because you got business travelers that are willing to pay a little bit more. It's a write-off. You're going to have less of that because people are getting accustomed to doing deals and communication over Zoom and cloud communication. But the normal traveler that wants to go out on vacation, they're looking to save a buck or two. So that's where, I mean, maybe the larger industries or companies might contract a bit more than the Frontiers and Spirit, which I will say I think they are for me because they look after my wallet, not but I mean, it'll be interesting because like I said, it's business I think is going to be impacted the most, which those bigger airlines that you've mentioned, I think that's where most
there'll be an unbundling effect of this, just like there is in streaming, just like there is in a lot of different things. I think there's going to be more boutique airlines, like you said, but I mean, you're helping me out with my arguments, Dustin. I mean, it's hard to say that if you're a business traveler that you just can't do it on Zoom now. I mean, people are open to that. So, like I said, I don't think we're going to get it back to where it was ever.
Yep.
But, it'll be interesting to see. Well, looking back at the stories, I mean, the thing that just I'm thinking lightheartedly today, Dustin. I think the high school football getting streamed is a cool angle. And we're trying to find some silver linings during this time, and I think being able to let the kids play safely, be able to kind of have that high school experience still is super important. And so I'm all for that. I'm all for seeing where that innovation takes us. And it's cool to see it happening in our backyard.
Yep. No, I love it. Chad's just getting tired of hanging out, tailgating at Friday night lights,
Hey, man, I got to tailgate somewhere, even if I'm tailgating on my couch watching the game.
Exactly. No, my favorite was the GM and Nikola. I think, everyone talks Tesla up so much, but I think, especially here in our backyard, I think it's an awesome company that's doing awesome things and I think has a bit better business model and excited to see what.
I want to see the gloves come off, man. Mm-hmm. I want to see that. Yeah, hopefully in the next year or so, we're going to have some some
Rockets
Tesla
and Badgers just going at it.
Tesla Nikola war. Yeah. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate you. If you're watching on YouTube or you're watching on Facebook or Instagram, wherever you're watching, thank you so much. Like and subscribe to the podcast if you want to stay updated. We do these Monday, Wednesday, Friday. If you want to hear a story or you want to hear us debate a story, send it over to us. You can DM us. You can find us at ncmbroadcast.com as well. If you have a mission that you're trying to bring awareness to, our whole thing here is that we bring unbiased news, real takes. Nobody's in our pockets telling us what to say. So if that sounds appealing to you and the message you want to tell, then reach out to us there. We want to hear from you. Dustin, do you have anything you want to mention?
Yeah, no, appreciate you guys tuning in. We're looking at the data and analytics quite a bit, and the listens and audience keeps growing. So appreciate it. Hopefully we're bringing value.
Yes, sir. Well, again, my name's Chaz Vandemater.
Dustin Trout.
And we will see you guys on Friday.